What's up, fam? Much love from the Gangster Preacher. Alright, so I'm giving you guys a 2-for-1 this week because this week coming up, my Gangster Preacher documentary episode 2 is coming out. So I'm going to read you guys 2 more chapters from my book, my autobiography book, From the Streets to the Throne by Isaiah Blancas, available on Amazon. Alright, so we're going to be reading chapters 13 and 14. Alright, so this is 13 is called Building My Rep. So on the east side, my reputation was pretty notorious for beating people up, robbing people, houses, and selling drugs. I met true old school gangsters and hung around them. Isaiah Blancas, a real street guy as hard as they come. Someone looked at me a second too long, I'd start trouble with you. The beating would be so bad that my victims would be shaking and convulsing on the floor. I thrived on stuff like that. I love seeing blood. I'd become the respected and feared gang member that I always wanted to be. If you weren't from my gang or I didn't know you or respect you, I was a nightmare of an adversary to have. You didn't want to test me to see if I was really down in the lifestyle. In my mind, I was living it to the fullest. Many friends or people that remember me or hung around me from back in that day will tell you the exact same thing. They will tell you that I had a death wish, which is probably at that point true. I think I did. I really didn't care about life anymore. I had already accepted my outcome, which comes with living a street life. Either I was gonna die in the streets from drugs or face a life imprisonment term. One of the old school gangsters I hung around with was named Bam Bam. He had a pool table in his garage, and old school hardcore gangsters would always hang out there, be drinking hard liquor and doing drugs. Bam Bam was a respected OG, original gangster, prison gang member, and drug dealer. I hanged around him. I think he would trip out on me because I was young, but really crazy. We got along. He schooled me in the gangster ways. He also knew my uncles, and they also had respect towards one another, and I respected Bam Bam. One particular night, I was there kicking it with him, and a lot of his homeboys were there. At that time, I was taking around 40 to 80 Russia pills a day. I popped those puppies like if I was eating M&M's, candies. As a matter of fact, a lot of my homeboys from Jackie's were full-blown heroin addicts, and when I'd party with them, I'd sell them big quantities. I gave drugs to them non-stop, and they got so messed up after taking like 10 to 16 Russia pills that they couldn't hang with me. That's how much tolerance I had built up to the drug use. I started drinking hard liquor too. I began mixing and matching drugs at a whole new level. I was just there enjoying myself at Bam Bam's when one of his homeboys kept looking at me. I stared right back at him. Most kids my age would have been scared out of their minds, but not me. I kept looking right back at him, mad dogging him. It's a term that we use when we looked at someone with not so good intentions. What are you looking at, Pee Wee? He asked. Pee Wee is what old school gangsters call youngsters living crazy. My respect for Bam Bam kept me from asking the same thing. Bam Bam always told me I was welcome as long as I respected his house and didn't start problems. I was just waiting for this gangster to say something. I always carried my big knife or big screwdriver with me. It was lodged at an angle down my dicky pants under my shirt. I'm looking at you, I said, in not so nice words, and I was cussing actually. And I was heading towards him, and I intended to stab him right there on the spot. But as I walked across the room, Bam Bam stopped me. And he said, "Hey, come here, little homie, let's have a talk." He said, "Homito, this is my house. I got love for you, but you can't do that here." I got mad and tried to justify myself, saying he started it. And he said, "Look, little homie, you're probably more than likely going to be rolling with the same, prison gang we roll with. Let's go back in and kick it and respect my house." I said, "Okay, I will, but he better not look at me no more." So back into his garage we went. I think the guy knew I was crazy and a little hothead that wasn't scared of him and would go all out. The rest of the night I hung out for hours. I was mad dogging that old schooler on purpose. I was still mad and wanted to stab him. He wouldn't even look my way anymore. I think he knew I really wanted to do him harm, and he left the party early. And that's that chapter. And I have one more to go, but one thing I want to say is one thing I didn't know, and Bam Bam told me later on, years later, after he knows that I know God now, and he's very proud of me. And actually, he serves God now, and I'm very proud of him. But we have very similar lifestyles. I mean, Bam Bam, he's just an OG, old schooler. He's probably like in his 60s right now, mid 60s. And he told me that actually that day he invited me because it was shot callers getting together from all the major organized crime figure people. So that guy was one of them. What I didn't know is that if I would have, stabbed this dude and done what I wanted to do, I would have ended up dead. Which is crazy, right? But God takes care of us, man. That's what I'm saying. I hope this book inspires someone out there to see, how good God is. And my life's gonna get crazier, man, until I find God. All right. And so number 14 is called Inktov. Around this time, I also started getting tattoos. A few of my uncles did prison style tattoos. They made a handmade tattoo gun and used guitar strings as the needle. I got small tattoos and jackies when I was younger, like 3 dots on my wrist. That meant mi vida loca, my crazy life. Along with my homeboy Valdo, and I also had tattooed Westside Locos on my leg with a cross and 2 dots on my other leg and 4 dots between my shoulder and chest. It was just me and my friends being crazy. We were young. Those tattoos were done between the ages of 9 and 12, but I wanted my uncle to tattoo a PVJ tattoo in Old English letters between my shoulder blades on my back to show my allegiance to my gang, so I got my first real tattoo. My uncles poured tequila over the tattoo when they were finished and slapped the area with their hand. I witnessed this when they were free and not locked up. My uncles, as I've stated before, were real street guys. I had uncles on my mom's side and dad's side of my family that have spent over 30 years of their lives behind bars. I eventually got another 2 tattoos on both my upper arms. I met a guy nicknamed Tiny from the LFL gang, which was another big gang in El Paso. We got along. Tiny's dad was well respected in the streets. He was in the same prison gang my friend Devin's uncle Juan was from. Tiny was covered in tattoos from his fingers to his neck. We got to talking quite a bit, and I found out that Tiny actually lived in the Jackies area when he was younger and went to the same elementary school. He explained how his own dad had tattooed him and all his brothers and sisters since they were all really young. I remembered seeing him in elementary when we were younger, and I started laughing. I told him, I remember you. You would dress all gangstered out with a flannel shirt where just the very top button of the shirt would be buttoned. Your sleeves would always be rolled up, showing all your tattoos, and you would always walk around in your arms with 2 girls. He said, yeah, that was me, and we both started laughing. Tiny offered me to tattoo me for free. Well, check this out, fam. I mean, this is when we were like in 5th grade, I believe. And he was tattooed out of me from his fingers all the way to his neck totally. And not just him, but all his brothers and sisters too, and they were all named Freddie. Which was, it's a trip, when you're 5th grader and you see a dude like that. And he would have his arms around 2 girls with their hair puffed up like gangster style, walking around as a 5th grader. So that's why it was funny to us, And so I went to his house and met his dad, who was also called Tiny. That's another thing, they were all nicknamed Tiny, the majority of them. When I walked into her house, his dad said to me, "Que rollo, what's up?" I said, "Órale, que rollo," back to him. I was drunk and messed up on Rocha pills and high on weed. So Tiny, even though he was 15, he already knew how to do tattooing. His dad had trained him since he was a kid. He pulled out a homemade tattoo gun, like the tattoo gun my uncles used. He asked me what I wanted tattooed on me. I want a PVJ in Old English letters on my upper arm. Under the PVJ, I wanted to spell out Westside in Old English letters also. He said, "Órale, let's get down." So I took off my shirt. I brought a bottle of hard liquor with me so I could drink while I was getting my new gang tattoo. We both sat down in his kitchen. I remember I faced his refrigerator, and on the refrigerator door was a little magnet mirror. I could see his dad through it. He was checking out his son's art. He was drinking shots of hard liquor I had brought with me. They had oldies playing in the background. Tiny's dad nodded, and every time I would see him nodding, he would be going like this. Little Tiny would push the needle into my arm harder. After a few times of seeing this, I stood up. I don't care if you put the whole needle in my arm, just make sure the tattoo looks right when you're finished. His dad smiled and started laughing. He said, "You're a down little homie, Weddle." We all started laughing. His dad liked me. He knew I was down. It's funny because after that, he invited me over to hang out a lot. Not too long after that, I was there and a big guy a few years older than me went over to pay for a tattoo. He didn't even get it free. And the same thing happened. Little Tiny's dad was nodding like that. I pushed the needle in the guy's arm, in other words. But this guy receiving the tattoo started complaining and whining about it. Tiny's dad started beating this guy up real bad and kicking him out of his house. They didn't even finish his tattoo. We all laughed. I guess he would test people by doing this. That's what made him like me so much, because I didn't care either and lived crazy myself. I also tattooed a PVJ on my finger at a party in Jackie's along with many of my homeboys. So a lot of us got, you know, tattoos like that on our fingers that said PVJ and stuff like that, and that was a normal thing for us. And you know, so I just want to thank you guys, man, for watching and for showing love that you guys show on YouTube. If you like this video, click the like button and subscribe, of course, to my YouTube channel, which of course is under Gangster Preacher. And if you like the book so far, go get it on Amazon. It's called From the Streets to the Throne by Isaiah Blancas. It's available on Amazon. And leave a star rating and a comment, because that helps. I always forget to say that. So I appreciate it. Much love. God bless. God bless you guys, man.